Do you think things are really changing in the sustainability space?
Yeah, I think we've really reached a bit of a tipping point, and that's an overused phrase, but it's kind of two things really come to mind. One, I feel outside our bubble, people are starting to realise just how cheap clean energy is, and slowly, and how good these products are, and what that people actually want to buy them, and they're thinking this is going to happen. But secondly, they're also starting to get a grip of something very simple, which is we've got to get to zero. We can't. It's not just cutting a bit of carbon; it's zero carbon economies, and that combination in the mainstream out there beyond the sustainability bubble is really shifting how people look at the question. And for the first time, I think, in my career in 30 years, making the mainstream think of really radical action.
So it's all about innovation in many ways. I mean, we've got 19th century innovation behind us, a bridge that actually lifts up. Are we seeing that sort of innovation that's driving this transition?
Yeah, and I think in a sense the technology's already done a lot of the heavy lifting. What we've got to do now is do the social, institutional innovation. That for me is the thing that keeps me awake at night. I think we're quite likely to see a transition with great technology, but strangled in the middle management of firms and bureaucracies and regulators who can't get their heads around it. So one of the things we're seeing as a change is the move from a discussion of the economics of flexibility, which is more flexible, cheaper, to the economics of certainty. The more certain the transition, the cheaper it'll be, the cheaper the capital, the easier it is to build business models. And it's that kind of social flip which is as important. Now we've got the cheaper technology, we've got to have those social changes to say, actually, government's giving me more certainty allows this market to work better, because to be honest, we've never seen that before.
So how does this interplay work? So we've got technological innovation and disruption. We've got the work of organizations like Carbon Tracker and others is showing that we've got the economic tipping point. So we're in this technologically driven transition. It's making economic sense. It's becoming cost effective, if not cheaper. So do we even need government support on policy? How does that play into this transition?
Well, UK is a good example. UK has been able to turn off its coal power stations faster than it thought it would for two reasons. One, offshore wind's become a lot cheaper, and the other one is we use a lot less power because our fridges are more efficient and mobile computing has really suppressed energy demand. So those are all product-based innovation.
Okay.
But to go to the next level, after we've turned off the last coal power station, emission reductions will stop, because the next tasks are replacing all the heating in housing with electric heating, electrifying transport. You can only do that by radically reorganizing the grid, getting rid of the gas grid, replacing it with a different electricity grid, going digital. Those are not product innovations, they're system innovations, and they require the regulatory systems to allow them and incentivize them to happen. Otherwise, they just won't. Just like energy efficiency hasn't happened, even though it's always been cost effective. So it's that's the change we need, or the technology will never get out of the box.
But even with the success the UK's had with transitioning away from coal, policy has still played a role in that. It wouldn't have happened without the policy kicker, if you like. And in a sense, if we had all the time in the world, we don't, 12 years to halve emissions is what the latest IPCC report tells us, we could probably let the technology and the economics get on with it, but we don't have the luxury of that time. So how does the policy drive that implementation now?
Yeah, and I think you're right. So the question is now going from really how slow can we eke it out to how fast can we go? And that's a very different approach to policy. How quickly can we build a sustainable building industry that can retrofit houses to high quality? How quickly can we build a low carbon construction industry, a low carbon mobility industry? And none of the models we use actually model that. They all think that acting slower is better, whereas actually acting faster is better. And I think Volkswagen is a great example of that. For the last 10 years, people have been saying to Volkswagen, electric is the future. And they believed that in China, where the government gave it a strong push, and they didn't believe that in Europe. And then suddenly they say, this is our future, because of Dieselgate undermining their current product, but the idea that policy and consumers are going to drive forward. So that's where I think the policy really makes the difference, just giving them the foundational certainty that that's where the market's going to be.
Well, you can see, London's a very international city, and you can hear all different languages spoken here. So why do you think London and the UK, does that have a special place in this?
I mean, I'm a Londoner, and I love London because it's an old city with the front of new things. And the UK started the Industrial Revolution, and hopefully we'll be the first to get out of the coal revolution. But one thing people don't know about London, perhaps, is it's got more people working on climate change globally than any other city in the world. We work in Beijing, Shanghai, Delhi, Berlin, Washington. There's nothing like the collection of organisations working on climate change here. So we think London has really got the potential to go to build, the world's first cluster on climate change, which is blending all these different sectors. So within a cab ride, I can get a world-class scientist, a world-class insurance broker, a world-class green finance person, a world-class NGO, a world-class architect, a world-class engineer, and bring them together. And that is impossible in any other city. So this could be the mainspring of the climate revolution. It isn't at the moment. It's fragmented. Perhaps it doesn't know what it's like. And so the reason we've come with the Mayor of London, who lives in this lovely building behind us, to do London Climate Action Week for the first time this year, is to start building that sense of common purpose and awareness, so that London goes from a place where lots of people do great work to a city that works for driving the climate solutions faster. Because as you say, in the end, speed is the only thing that matters at this point. And we're not learning fast enough, we're not solving fast enough, we're not driving fast enough. And we think London has got a really special place to do that.
Well, 10 or 15 years ago, London made itself one of, if not the global hub for carbon finance. So in a sense, that's sort of reinventing the wheel, although maybe this time 4 wheels rather than just one.
And it's interesting, because that was an example of the first phase of climate change where people thought, a few marginal price signals would drive the whole societal and economic change, and that was true. And I think now, in a sense, this time round, we're saying, well, no, the solutions have moved from economic to techno-economic to now they're societal based. And as London is not, it's got a whole society as well as links to the whole of the world. So not only do we have all these great professional organisations, we have diaspora from most parts of the world, including the most climate change parts of the world. And we'll be bringing together, for example, at the Cricket World Cup in London Climate Action Week, Pakistan and Bangladesh are playing together, and we're going to theme with the high commissions around climate impacts and around the audience, the diaspora audience you get here, because of these very climate vulnerable countries. So we can bring the world to UK, but at the same time we're also looking at the cultural sector. So English National Opera will do Noah's Flood as an opera here, working with local school children in some of the most flood vulnerable parts of London, in Stratford, and some of the most ethnic minority excluded communities, again, to bring that in. So moving from something which is held by the high priestess of carbon finance like you, to something that's owned by the whole of society, because they're the people who have to live with it, and they're the people who have to pay for it.
Well, I mean, you've got events by The Economist, by the Financial Times. There's going to be one of the climate innovation forums that usually take place at the COPs here. I don't know if I'm missing any of the other big events. The Ashton Awards.
The Supreme Court is going to do an event on climate litigation. Have Supreme Court justices around the world. So there'll be a lot on law. One of London's big hubs. People don't remember that we are one of the biggest centre of law in the world as well. A lot on resilience, a lot on on the risk, looking at impacts on communities, and hopefully we're looking for more on things like health and social justice. So,
and when is this taking place?
So the 1st to the 5th of July, there'll be events before it, leading into it, and events leading out of it. But the core will be that first week of July. Also the first week of Wimbledon, also the first week of the Cricket World Cup. So a good week to be in London, we hope, for the international audience as well.
Well, wonderful. Well, look, Nick, thank you. That's been a great conversation. And do you think London Climate Action Week is the beginning of something?
Yeah, so this is our beta version year. Hopefully, it's going to be probably at least 150 events. So it'll be quite a big first go. But especially if the UK gets the COP next year and hosts the climate conference, it'll be much bigger next year. So we hope this is both the first of many events, but also the first of London becoming a true kind of climate hub, a climate cluster, a climate society, even if we get there, where both in London we're making London zero carbon, but the organisations in London are helping the world become zero carbon and resilient.
And that's the COP, is the Conference of the Parties to the Climate Negotiations, COP26. And is this, will this also involve the UK? Because this kind of depth and breadth in climate sustainability, it is a London thing, but it's also a UK thing more generally.
Yeah, so we'll be having a lot of London in the broadest sense, perhaps London seen from abroad. So it's definitely involving institutions from around the country and also cities from around the rest of the UK who will be coming in. So it is a London thing and it will involve Londoners, and that's important. But this is not an exclusive event. It's something that everybody's going to be a part of. But London is our global city, so kind of let's use it globally, really is the point.
So you plan to give our good friends and cousins and neighbours in New York a run for their money with...
Yeah, I think a bit of healthy transatlantic competition is quite important. They've been slightly slipped off the ball for a few years with Trump, so it's time for London to stand up and make a smart. But to be honest, there's space for everybody in this game. There's a lot of work to do. We're not doing enough of it, so that's what we want to create another place where we do better work.
So if anyone wants to get involved, what do they need to do? Who do they need to contact?
Yeah. So if you search on the Greater London Authority page for London Climate Action Week, you will get the page where you can register your events. You can go on the database. They'll send you updates, the pack for people hosting events, which have things like branding, sustainability guidelines, diversity guidelines. This is going to be an event that looks like London, not a load of manuals. So so that's the place. GLA website, search for London Climate Action Week. You'll get an access to all the invitations, get on the database, we'll send you all the information, and take it from there.
So Nick, thank you, brilliant.